I am about to say today with me, I have ChoseN, aka Brad, from the Fateless team. Now, Brad, first things first, I know I had Dirk on here, and he said that if anything goes wrong, I should blame you. Okay, so that's from
Wait, who
that's
said that?
Dirk said that.
Dirk, damn it. Okay, gotcha. That's fair.
Yeah, so just so you know, like I have been blaming you for everything I seem wrong. So I haven't got to your inbox yet, but yeah, I've been blaming you. Um, so
Fair enough.
I have you on here today. Can you kind of explain, your role in Fateless, what's your day to day look like, stuff like that?
Sure, yeah. Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me on your channel. Always fun to chat with you guys and talk some Godforge. Daily stuff at Godforge. Kind of when I started out 2.5 years ago, it was the very initial phases. So we were just talking for hours a day on what's going to be the foundation, what's going to be the way the game works, what are the systems we want, how's the story going to be, and that was the early days of Fateless. And now we have a full-fledged team. So we're up to like 40 or 50 people, and it's just full systems blast. So things are a little bit more specialized now, where you'll get specific tasks every day and every week and all that. So mainly focusing on designing kits, designing bosses, and testing abilities, getting them in the game. Doing some basic things in Unity to get heroes implemented in the game, and things like going through fixing typos and just kind of general fixing and designing of Godforge would be the main day to day, and then some of the community stuff, podcast and collabs and videos and yeah.
That's fun. That's very fun. So I think my question for you is how is it going, like being on the other side now? You covered a lot of games. You covered like Diablo 4 was a big one you covered. How's it being from on the covering side to the creation side now?
Yeah, it's it's a lot. You definitely understand things like from the other side of like how come this is so hard to balance? Can't you just go in and make a change? Like it's just a number on a spreadsheet. But the problem is when you have a team of 50 people, someone gives input and then you got to talk about that and it goes through a chain of command. Like there might be an ability or an imprint or something that I think is weak. I can't just go change it. I can't just it's got to go through a chain of command and get approved, and we can't just have 50 people doing whatever they want on the game. So the ship is a little bit slower to turn than you would expect it to be from like the content creator side. But it's been a blast kind of learning how it all works so far.
I mean, that's how it is for me, right? I released a Slayer video where I'm like, hey, why is Sharpen so weak? It's only 10% buff, right? And I'm just one guy who just like noticed one thing in this huge game, right? So like, I can imagine it being difficult, being like, okay, I have to convince everyone that this is weak and then come up with a change. And then I want to talk about, does that break anything? Does that whatever, right? And maybe it's like, well, actually you did your math wrong, Sage, and it's not weak. And here's the reason why, right? So I couldn't imagine.
The Sharpen thing, that's already on. It was on my radar, and then also I believe it's on the Fateless full team radar. So yeah, I'm gonna bet high likelihood that Sharpen gets changed, either reworked or buffed in a certain way. So odds are the way you see it currently in the game is not going to be like the final version of Sharpen.
That's crazy. I'm going to take full responsibility for that, even if it had nothing to do with me. I would be like, yep, that was my video that did that, right?
Yeah, all the feedback helps. So your feedback is definitely really insightful to hear from.
Gotcha. And so, we'll go off of what Dirk said. Dirk said, during the alpha, some heroes didn't have enough time to be balanced properly, right? And they felt a bit weak, felt a bit strong. And then at this point, you guys are going back and like cleaning up the kits now. So how does it feel to go back and kind of like see, oh yeah, this is obviously like we can have this be the vision we want it to be now, right? How's that? It has to feel good, right?
Yeah, and I would even argue most heroes didn't have a chance to get like fully like tested and balanced as much as we would want to, because the thing with game development is you're always trying to get done as fast as possible. Like you're always like, we don't want players to wait 5 years for the game to come out, and we don't want players to wait 4 years for a beta or an alpha or anything. So you're always trying to go as fast as humanly possible. And then you get the alpha out there. Let's do a few iterations of that. Let's see what breaks, and let's do some balancing from there. But we even still to this day, we've got some very robust balancing to do, and there's going to be a lot of that to come. So That's what made it tough with the mini game. Is like we want to get this to you guys ASAP, but then you're like, but we can't see all the kits yet, and we like, and it's like that's the balancing act. Is like we know, and that's fair criticism. But we also don't want to wait a year to give you the mini game. So that's the push and the pull.
Yeah, that's the big thing too. Is you always hear like, what's the kit? Oh, even like what's the A1 of some of the heroes? We just don't know, right? And it's just like, we know kind of like we can infer their passive from their imprint, but that's not always 1-to-1 either. We've seen with certain imprints, with the assault imprint, right? Just that's been changed to not be the standard, like cut something in half. So it's been very. I feel the. I hear people be like, "Oh, I pulled ChoseN," and it's like, well, ChoseN's been said to shouldn't have been shown, right? And so it's like, how do we tell them? Simon said it in one of my comments. I was like, oh, I'm not sure ChoseN was ready yet because of all these typos and all these like things. And Simon's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have shown it yet. And it's just for the community. It's like, how can I recommend? It's like ChoseN looks cool, but like we don't know the changes. So can you tell the community like, will these characters have the same vibe that they see now, even if they get changed?
I would bet, yeah. But there's going to be a lot of fine tuning as we implement things and test things and balance things, and we have to make sure the difficulty of the bosses is scaling properly. There's enough options for players, so certain heroes might need to get tuned up or down a little bit. But yeah, in general, and then there's been some big reworks like Loki and Ra and some of the heroes that people weren't utilizing very often in the alpha phases and felt like they were a little bit weak for legendaries. We're going back and kind of rethinking their kits. And there's going to be a lot more of that type of stuff to come because right now we're still trying to kind of make sure we can get all this mini game and early access stuff out there as soon as possible and get things kind of in a working fashion. And then it's time for like the polishing and the balancing and some of that type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I've been thinking more and more about it. I'm a huge fan of Raw's new passive. Like these burns kind of building up this ultimate, right? That is, I love that. Chef's kiss. I love it. So yeah. So I know too, how's it been playing around with different systems that we haven't really seen before in this style of gacha, right? With like Divnity and like stuff like actually affecting strong hit chance, right? Like how has that been like getting to play around with a few of these, I'd say core systems of the genre?
Yeah, one of the things that I was really worried about was the ultimate system and letting heroes ult whenever they want. I was worried about that. I thought like, oh, it's gonna break the game. People are gonna build like one turn meter booster, and then they're just gonna cast ultimates over and over and build divinity on everybody else. I was like, there's gonna be some way to break this. So we've had to kind of think internally, how do we make it powerful and customizable and let people express their skill and their team building without it completely breaking the game. But yeah, the ultimate's going to be one of the bigger selling points of Godforge. It's going to be a lot of fun to have a different, as opposed to just speed meta. Oh, I'm just going to get as fast as possible and I'm going to win. Now you got to kind of like balance speed and initiative, hopefully, is the goal. So, and then with like strong hit, we don't want like the only damage option. Oh, I'm just going to go crit rate and crit damage. So we want like some other lever to pull. And then there's also that allows us to do more things that proc off of abilities. So you'll have passives like when they crit, this happens. Well, you can also do now when a strong hit, this happens. So it gives us a lot more avenues to shoot things in different directions and bring different things to, you might be able to build a strong hit team that just starts popping off with crazy stuff happening. You can build a crit team popping off with crazy stuff happening. So we want people to be able to express all these different ways to kind of play the game and deal damage and build successful rosters.
Yeah, we kind of saw that with like Quetzalcoatl petrifying on a strong hit, right, on the A1. And so like now we see some of these weapons giving us petrify chance, right? Or not petrify chance, strong hit chance. And we also see like the Mulan imprint giving strong hit chance and stuff like that. So like you can kind of start to see this strong hit thing where like maybe there's like a Beowulf Quetzalcoatl team that's like, oh, we're all about doing the strong hits, getting the max HP with the Beowulf strong hits, getting the petrify with that, and then Quetzalcoatl generates divinity whenever people strong hit, whenever he strong hits too, so that fuels into the attack up and stuff. I start to end the accuracy up, which makes it more like the strong hit. I see, what I'm saying? I'm starting to see it here. That's something that we've been talking about in the Hive Mind. It's like, hey, there's a strong hit team, right? Like there's a vision here. We're starting to see it, so it's pretty exciting to start to see these imprints and weapons supporting that play style.
Yeah, and it gives us different levers too. If we have like PvP seasons where maybe we'll have a season where you can't crit hit. Maybe we'll have a season where you can't strong hit. Maybe like try to shift the meta in different ways and let people have different heroes shine depending on the season. That's not a leak or a guarantee or anything. I'm just kind of chatting with you.
Yeah.
But it allows us to have some different levers to play with in the future.
Man, that got my brain juices flowing. I'm like, man, there's so many cool things you can do, especially with having, yeah, that's fun. And we talked about the ultimates. You don't want it to happen every time. We saw that during Alpha Wave 1 and 2 with Aphrodite, right? With just generating this divinity that just ultimate every single turn, right? Like, or almost every turn of just, and so obviously there is a concern there of like, hey, you have to balance this or, these teams are going to run amok. So.
Yeah. And I kind of knew that going into it. As I said, I knew the ultimates, there's going to be some way to break this. There's going to be something that happens for sure. And that's the point of Alpha, right? Is we can't possibly be smarter than 30,000 of you trying to break the game and test the game. So it's great for us to kind of see what ends up happening and then be able to refine the ultimate system and things like that as we go.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about something that you kind of expected from the alpha. What's something that you didn't expect from the alpha? Like going in like, oh, I didn't even think that players would try this or do this, or I can't believe this hero or team worked.
Oh, I didn't expect maybe bleeds to be as ridiculous as they were. And it was also great for like progressing content. Like you just bring in a level 1 Achilles. As long as he gets a bleed down, now you just so that definitely adjusted a little bit, maybe how we're going to play with these numbers and get it to work. But there was all sorts of things. There was people doing billions of damage and just infinite things happening. So it was fun to see, and there was a lot unexpected, but I expected there to be a lot unexpected happening.
Yeah, I mean, you play Diablo 4 and you said you played Path of Exile as well. Is like when you see some of these Path of Exile, I play a little bit of Path of Exile. It's like when you see these multiplier and builds, you're like, you can do what now? Like, what do you mean you could do this, right? So
I was way more of a Diablo guy than, but Path of Exile is a great game. Just I ended up playing Diablo more.
Yeah. So, you're like, yeah, if you give players enough tools, they're gonna break something. They're gonna find something stupid and break it. But yeah, I think a lot of it with the alpha 2 was the passive for the boss wasn't working, right? Where like they were supposed to take quarter damage and it just didn't work, right? So
yeah. So we had to kind of play with some of that stuff because they were taking way too much damage in certain situations, and there was other things like that where there was just too much happening more than it should have been, or something wasn't implemented properly. It wasn't functioning perfect. Something was coded wrong. Things we need to clean up and optimize. So I'm excited for early access because it should be a way better version of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always been excited, man. I've been ever since Alpha 3. It's just been the game got its hooks on me, man. In Alpha 2, it got its claws on me, and it made me really push for that win in Alpha 3. So yeah, it's been a crazy ride. I cannot wait to play early access at all. So I know we talked a little bit about the Slayer video I made, right? And I called Slayer's feeling a bit weak, right? And I kind of lined out some reasons why and stuff. How aware is the Fateless team of that? And like, is that something you guys are looking at in the, as you're doing this rescoping, this balancing of characters?
Yeah. Well, in Slayer's defenses, we haven't done like the full multiplier balancing pass yet.
Okay.
So like I'm sure, but we did kind of know it was going to be a challenge because your brawlers are just going to be so good because they're going to be, and even defenders to some extent, because they're going to be tanky and they're also going to deal damage. So it's like, how do you give a Slayer when they're just dealing damage? They're not tanky. They're not providing utility. So and you can't really make them a disruptor because now disruptors don't have a role. So they're going to have to be very powerful on killing things, and if they're not going to have a role. So we do need to find that balance for sure.
Yeah, the scary thing is too is you can't just be like, okay, they do 3 times the damage as defenders, because they start one-shotting everything, and it becomes a speed race again. It's like, okay, yeah, my my Raw has like 350 speed and he one-shots your entire team because that's what he's supposed to do. So it's hard to find that match of like, we can't let Slayers run over the place because they'll just kill everything. We'll have a speed meta. But at the same time, right now, I think defenders have a lot of support with like Shishi especially and Heimdall just giving them everything they could ever want. So I look forward to see brawlers and slayers kind of getting us. Yeah, I think also, brawlers. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. It's also that damage dealing role or slayer role. It tends to be a more condensed role. So the spots for that role are more competitive, and I don't know if I'm wording this properly, but like, so when you build a team, let's say you're going in the arena and you're doing 4v4, typically you're only going to have one slayer.
Yeah.
So you're not bringing like 3 slayers. So the spot for what's going to be viable in that one location is very competitive because you can usually build like 2 invokers and 1 defender, or invoker, defender, whatever, but you're usually going to have 1 slayer because you have so many other boxes you need to check. For boosting and supporting and debuffing, sorry. But you have so many different things you need to check that you usually don't have a spot for 1 slayer. And that means it's really hard to have all slayers be viable because it's so condensed. I don't know if I did a good job articulating what I'm thinking.
Our resource is team slots, right? You only have so many team slots to work with, right? And I can't let, there's, what's the word? There's an opportunity cost, right? There's a hey, no matter if I have too many slayers, I just get disrupted down, right? I can't cleanse the debuffs, I can't cleanse the disables, or I can't just stay alive, right? Like, what happens if the enemy team has a Horus and the Horus A3 taunts my entire slayer team? It's like, oh, I just die. Okay, cool, right? And the same thing's true for bosses as well. As like, you kind of need to dedicate 3 team slots to keeping the engine going, and then you have that 4th team slot for your damage dealer, and only 1 guy can go there. So it totally makes sense to me, at least, what you're trying to say.
Well, and I was thinking more of a PvP vein, but there is going to be some situations, I'm sure, where it flips, and you do want a lot of slayers. Like maybe you're trying to do as much damage as possible to the Pantheon boss in a quick time frame, so you're going to bring a bunch of damage. So obviously nothing's absolute, but I just tend to see like I know in playing Raid all those years, it was always you bring 1 nuker, like you bring Trunda, you don't bring 3 Trundas, or so you have like your booster, your debuffer, and you nuke them down or whatever. So in PvP, it's hard to get multiple slayers into a team, whereas you can usually get multiple invokers or something, and support is very valuable in many different ways.
Yeah, I completely agree. So yeah, that's all the questions I had actually prepared for you, just to answer them so elegantly and so quickly. So, what's some stuff that you want to talk about, right? As you see, content creators' videos, maybe my videos, maybe other people's videos, or just see the community at large talking. Is there anything you want to kind of talk about, right?
Yeah, no, I've tried to consume a lot of your guys' different viewpoints and channels and stuff, but maybe we could just chat about maybe what you think is overcooked or undercooked. What do you think is too strong, too weak? If you wanted some feedback to be heard from your hive mind and from your community, what do you think is maybe too strong or too weak and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I think I know one of them. I know 9 is a big. I'll put 9's opinion out there. He doesn't like the inconsistency tax that rares have to pay to do their job, right? So he's not a fan of like 50% defense down on rares, right? He would rather see 100% defense down 1, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's a big thing for him, is that there's a lot of inconsistency, especially at the uncommon level too. It's like 20% chance to play sleep on their ultimate. And it's like, yeah, I get it, they're uncommon, but like that hurts, That's very, very inconsistent. So
yeah. And I agree with him. It's a fair point. It's just we can't have rares like do everything and be super because we have to have a space to grow into epics. And it's kind of like that next step you take. It's like the rare can do it, but it's not amazing at it. The epic can do it very consistently. The legendary can do it, and it's amazing at it. So it's like we need these. And to his point, that is why we have the extra set of like tiers. These games usually just have like a crap version and a normal version, but we have the 1, 2, and the 3.
Yeah.
And that's the idea behind that is so we can have like a crappy version of defense down, a normal version, and a super strong version. And we're gonna be kind of trying to grow into that. Right now, there's not a whole lot of heroes that do like defense down 3, super reliable. You're probably not going to see that a lot in early access, but we're kind of giving ourselves room to grow into having a wide breadth of these options. Maybe it's defense 1, but it's super consistent. Maybe it's defense 3, but it's super inconsistent, and we'll have these different levers we can pull with.
Yeah, that's really cool too. Yeah, I think when I think of rarity, right, and once again, I am hardly an expert at these games. I really came to my own at Godforge. At rate, I've only played like 7 or 8 months, but I'd like to see rares do one thing okay, right? And I see epics. Let's say like let's do our defense down guy, right? Let's think of like Dagonet. It's like I'd like to see Dagonet do like defense down 2 100%. That's like basically much his entire kit, right? Well, the rare or the epic that brings defense down 2, and like he also has a cool thing on his ultimate where like he does attack down as well, right? And then the legendary is bringing like everything, right? They're like bringing damage and defense down and attack down, right? So I think of when you think about inconsistency, I like to see rares do one thing consistently and the rest of their kits like is non-existent, if that makes sense. And then rares get to do one more thing, and then legendaries get to do 2 more things or 3 more things, right? So I think that's what Nine would say in this situation, right?
Yeah, it's good feedback, and you're not wrong. It's just with our ultimate system, it's like if you make a good core and then you say, okay, well now because of that, they're basic and their ult's gonna suck. It's like, well now, what's the point of them ever having initiative? What's the point of? And if we do the opposite, if we make them a good ultimate and you say they're a rare, so the rest of their kit has to suck now.
Yeah.
Well, now there's no point to upgrade their skills and get the cooldowns, and there's no like
or the speed, right?
There is a lot that goes into it.
Or the thing is, I link speed with core, right? Because you get those turns faster to redate your core like that. So it's like if you have a really good ultimate, but then your core sucks, like why build speed? Just build initiative, right? There's no tension, I guess, is what you're saying, right? Between speed and initiative.
But you are not wrong. We've had a lot of times where we're designing heroes, and I'll be sitting here thinking, and I'm cooking up a kit. I'll be like, okay, this ult's a little bit too ridiculous, so I'm gonna have to take that into account and make the basic a little bit underwhelming. It's like that does happen for sure.
Yeah, and then how much thought goes into divinity costs for heroes, right? Because like I know we saw Hell's divinity cost was like 2,000 plus in the alpha. But the recent thing from Simon showed it at 1,200, right? So I'm really happy to see that, right? I'm like, yeah, you guys are thinking about divinity costs, right? So how much thought has been going to that, like now during this polish step, I guess?
Yeah, we thought some of those would be kind of like I think Dracula was similar. Like some of these like 2,200 cost ultimates, they were supposed to be like world enders, like basically like a 7 cooldown ability. But if they get it, they win.
Yeah.
So, and what we found out is that's really tough to balance. Because like you said with Slayers, it's like it either has to be so ridiculous that it's just crazy, or it's not good enough, and then it's just trash. Yeah. So we are kind of trying to move those in a little bit instead of having a range of like 600 to 2,400, maybe like 800 to 1,500. That like still have a lot of variance, but narrow it a little bit. But that's not to say there won't be abilities later on that have 2,000 divinity, and because there'll be a lot of heroes and ways to counter it by lowering divinity, stealing divinity, locking ultimates. There's going to be different ways to kind of counter that.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I love to watch all the check and balances for the systems as well, right? Because you have to play with like initiative down it, for example, as well, or just such as that nature is just. It always gets my brain juices flowing of just like, what can we cook up? How can we go? One of the things I'm so excited for is, obviously probably can't talk much about it, but like, I can't wait to see more bosses. So just in a vibe thing, how do you think the bosses are? Just on a scale of like 1 to 10, are you excited to show these? Basically, is what I'm saying. You can't leak anything, obviously, but like,
yeah. No, I think the bosses are gonna. I mean. The problem is everybody's gonna be like, oh, he's biased. Of course he likes it. Like, what's he gonna say? It's crap. But like, I do genuinely think that we've got a lot of different ways that you're gonna need to think about the game, and you're not gonna really be able to just build like 5 heroes and now I do every boss. So we're trying to make it viable so that you're excited to get more heroes. Like because we all know playing these games, when you're summoning and you get like an epic or a legendary and they're not good anywhere, you're like, well, this game's a lot of fun. Like, this is trash. So we're trying to make a lot of different ways to build rosters and create boss experiences that will reward that. And I think we're getting pretty close to that. Obviously, we still have to do a lot of testing and flush out these systems, but I am excited with what's been cooked up as far as the boss kits.
So what I heard is you made a boss specifically for Set because, Set's an epic that no one wanted to pull, no one had a use for him. So there's a Set boss. I heard that's what I heard in that little spiel you gave.
If stuff like that's happening, that's a fail on our part. Like, we need to go look at those heroes and buff them up, because we all know that the truth is there's gonna be like a meta. There's gonna be people are gonna have heroes that end up rising to the top, and they're gonna have legendaries they think are worse. That's just always gonna happen. But our job is to try and kind of shrink that gap. Like, we don't want something is 10 times better than anything else, and we don't want something that would never be used.
Yeah. Every hero needs a home, basically, right?
At least something that they're useful for sure.
Yeah. That's exciting to hear. I love that's kind of the obvious philosophy to have, but it's nice to hear it from from the game developers or game designer to be like, yeah, we are doing that. There is conversations, right? So
For sure. And hopefully very robust. A lot of times these games, they only do balance changes like once a year or something. So I'm hoping we can hit that mark a little bit more often, especially here when the game is early access and new. I can't sit here and leak like a certain cadence, but I know we want to be very good about staying on top of that kind of stuff and at least making sure every hero has somewhere to go.
Yeah. And you asked me, go back to the previous question you asked me. I said what was undercooked. What do I think is like just right? I love Shinigami's kit, man. Like, that's not just a meme. I love Shinigami, kind of this like, he does a little bit of everything, man. Just the defense down the hex. It's not 100%, but he does enough damage to kind of back it up, or even if you don't hit it, you still impacted the battle in some way. And then that low cost ultimate to just put that quick drain and curse on, and along with the banish on I think it's his A5, has a 50% chance to banish. So there is inconsistency in the kit, but his kit is doing so much, even if it is the level 1 version of it. I love Shinigami. And like, I always meme to people as during Alpha 3, I was like, oh, look, another common Shinigami W, right? Same thing with like when the Daimyo was leaked. It's like, oh, look, Shinigami's great for this guy. Like, who would have guessed? Like, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think I think Shinigami is a good example of a rare that was done pretty well. Like, the model is very cool and memorable. His weapon is ridiculous. It's fun, and it's this epic scythe. And then his kit is unique and good enough, but not like ridiculous where he's better than legendaries. So yeah, he is one that kind of like, that is a good rare benchmark for us to kind of look at. So yeah, it's a good shout out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear that's the benchmark. That makes me feel so happy because like,
well, I'm not sure that's like the benchmark.
I know what you're saying, but like, that's what I heard. Once again, right? There's things you're saying is different from what I'm hearing, right? I'm hearing, oh, Shinigami is the best and he is the benchmark.
That's how the stuff goes in the clickbait headline era. It's like, 3 words out of a podcast all of a sudden becomes a viral thing.
Yeah, the video is actually be just 3 seconds long of just you saying Shinigami is the benchmark, and then the video ends.
Right, yeah, then just cut it.
Yeah. No, that's great to hear too. It's like, because I don't think Shinigami is better than most epics, to be honest with you, right? But like, he is still exciting to use in theory craft with, right? He still has his place, and then legendaries blow him out of the water. Like, let's be real. Like, Zeus and Shinigami are not on the same level of existence. Same thing with Ra, same thing with Hell. So yeah, that is exciting to hear. I think one of the things I think too is I like Guan Yu's A1 being this static kind of 5% damage. You can't increase it with crit damage. You can't increase it with like drain effects, right? And then Beowulf being the epic version of that, having, that's the crit damage, crit rate, strong hit kind of, okay, you make this thing slap now. So I think that's a cool design of just having this static damage where it's still very relevant, still very good, but like it gets outclassed as you get the gear, as you get the buffs, as you get whatever. So
yeah, and that's going to be a tough one along the starters, because we don't want Guan Yu to be like, oh, he's the obvious choice. That's the only one you can pick. You have to pick Guan Yu because his A1 does you target max HP, and you need that for boss progression. So yeah, it's a risk for us putting that in there, because we want the other starters to be equally viable. So we'll have to give them some sort of selling point. Instead of Guan Yu being the only one that has like this epic selling point. So we do need to kind of visit that a lot.
Yeah, I think the reason Guan Yu is so chosen is not like the other Slayers are much better at wave clearing than Guan Yu is, especially with the way I think it's his ultimate where like he does a weak AoE and then a couple stray hits. That's good against bosses, but that's not good against like a 5-man wave, a 4-man wave, right? But I think what he really shines is he is end game viable, right? In these like Shishi teams, if the T end attack did work, right? Or in these like, you see Vivian bringing in people to attack from the Simon video or stuff like that. So I think if we have epic and rare and legendary Slayers kind of step up to like, hey, I can do more damage than Guan Yu without the max HP text, right? I think that kind of solves the answer of Guan Yu being the auto pick. He's not auto picked because he's better than the starters necessarily. He's an auto pick because he's like the late game damage dealer, right? So
well, and to be fair, in the kind of first iterations of players getting their hands on Godforge, Guan Yu was viewed as the worst.
Yeah.
So we are kind of trying to tighten these windows, and when he got reworked, now all of a sudden he was the best.
Was he different in Alpha Wave 1 than he was in 2 and 3?
You know what? I played so many hundreds of hours testing. And
that's true.
Phases that it blurs now for me. But I know that we've gone through, and maybe it wasn't even all public. Maybe this was like we did him 5 different times behind the scenes internally. But yeah, Guan Yu is different now than he was like the initial concept of his kit. And that's just us kind of trying to play with these starters, and it's never gonna be perfect. There's always going to be content creators like yourself making videos saying this is the one you need to pick, but we want to at least have them all be like, not in a situation where it's like, okay, this one's the pick, all the other ones are trash. You're blowing up your account if you don't pick this one.
How do you deal? This is actually a question I want to ask you. How do you deal with people over exaggerating like that, right? Because people were saying like, hey, if you don't pick Guan Yu in wave 3, you're out of the competition. You cannot win any of the Vegas trips. Which is simply not true because Papa Tez won starting with Lady Jacques. I don't know if he ever even built a Guan Yu, and if he did, it was very late in the account, right? So how I guess this is great as a balancing team. How do you protect yourself from like, oh, this is valid criticism for, oh, this is just speculation. This is just what's the word, clickbaitiness that's not well thought out. That's a great question, I think.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I've been a content creator for 17 years. So like I'm pretty familiar with the I don't know how to say that word. How do you say that?
Sensationalism.
Sensationalism. Yes. There we go. That's just kind of how everything is. Like every thumbnail, every title has to be like, this is the best build ever. This is the blank ever. Like that's how
don't break your account, right?
Like you will never win again if you do this. Like that's just how it kind of works in the algorithm ecosystem. So you get numb to it at a certain point. But yeah, you do kind of have to parse all the feedback and kind of just take it in. And it's like you try to figure out like what are we hearing the most? Like what's the feedback from the most amount of players? Because there's always going to be one person who doesn't like something. So, but it's like, are we hearing it from many different players? Are we hearing it from different directions? And that because you can't ever be perfect. I'm sure there's always going to be somebody who doesn't like a hero or doesn't like a boss fight or whatever. But you are right about the way that thumbnails work and all that. You have to kind of parse through it.
Yeah. And so that's something that you bring to the team then, right? Say, hey, you've been a content creator for 17 years, right? So have you ever had to talk to someone like, hey, no, that's just sensationalism. Like it's okay, right? Don't worry about it. Have you had that talks with the team?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've seen like a content creator who's just ridiculous and that it's over the top and we're not going to listen to them. All the Godforge creators are great so far, at least from what I've seen. But I understand the game. It's not even like a negative thing. It's just like if you want to grow your channel and stuff, you have to have an interesting thumbnail and a title. Otherwise, if your title is raw build 1, no one's gonna click on that. raw build 2. Like, so it's not like I'm trying to attack people or frame it bad. It's just, we're all fighting in the algorithm, and you have to be interesting. So it ends up kind of just naturally happening.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely feel that too. Is invoking emotion is the strongest way to get clicks, right? And it's just like that's the easy way to invoke emotion is just be this sensationalist, right? Try to invoke that.
Because that was the first thumbnail hack is the Mr. Beast like the reaction face,
Yeah.
That was the first meta back in like 2015, 2016, and and then it has a few different iterations, but that'll always be a go-to, like the content creator face.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me too. If you ask me what I think the best starter is to start, assuming that we get these other Slayers sort of, I'm a fan of Lady Jacques a lot actually, but I think Lady Jacques and Ramses are I think all three of them are very, very close. Like I think that Guan Yu really was better in the alpha because the roadblocks were the bosses, right? The Golden Guardian and Fafnir were massive roadblocks, and he just kind of solves them, right? He's like, okay, bring a Drain Enabler, bring your Green Knight, bring your Shinigami, put the Drain on the boss, and then Guan Yu just kind of works. But I really like the power of what was it of the wave clear of the other ones. I love the design of them. They get divinity by killing enemies, which they do with their core, and then they get their ultimate, and then their ultimate gives them back their core cooldown. So they have this really nice self-feeding cycle that I really, really like.
Yeah, it's a good shout out because the live game of Godforge is obviously going to be very different than what people were experiencing in alpha, where we have to condense the gameplay experience into 1 week instead of having robust progression, and you go from mostly rares to mostly epics to having some legendaries. We have to give you legendaries right away, and it's very much of a tower mechanic instead of I'm gonna do the campaign, and then I'm gonna do this dungeon, then I'm gonna do a different dungeon, then I'm gonna do PvP, then I'm gonna do Pantheon boss. So yeah, it's gonna be a vastly different experience, and I'm glad you shouted that out. Maybe Guan Yu is best in this dungeon or in this tower clearing situation, but maybe in the whole game, something like Lady Jacques might super shine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think Guan Yu is always gonna have a place in the late game, especially we see a lot of these team attackers come in with giving him the Wukong imprint, right? So he comes in on attacks, and the Vivians, the Shamaches, the even the Shishi bring in TN units if he still does that, right? So I think that's a very strong ability, by the way. I think that was actually overcooked. If you want to talk about, because we talked about undercooked.
Which one?
Shishi's A1 on his core brings in all TN units for the attack. Instead of, it starts as all defenders, but then it brings in defenders and TN units. And that is a crazy ability. So I don't want to say get rid of it, but I was saying if we were talking about something that's overcooked, when you have powerhouses like Guan Yu and the only TN units in the alpha were Shishi, Guan Yu, and Pangu, I believe, and they are really good.
Up and look.
And then we have Wukong as well. It's wow, bringing in these people are those are some of the strongest characters in the game.
I'm trying to look right now, quick. Jan, yep, yeah, good job. You were right. Guan Yu, Pangu, Shishi.
I spent so much time in the dark place that was 142, trying to clear it with TN and Izamo units. Yes, I know all the TN and Izamo units that were in the alpha.
I tried to fact check you live here, but you got it. You're on it.
Yeah, and the Izamo units were it was Musashi and Kunoichi. I believe that was it. Oh, and Shinigami. Yeah, Shinigami, Musashi, and Kunoichi. But
if I can do that. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. I tend to be.
There you go.
Yeah, 142 with the doing the TN and Izamo. Yeah, it was definitely difficult. I didn't have Pangu either, so I was stuck with 3 Slayers and a Defender. And I was like, yep, this is where we are.
Yep, I made sure to beat the alpha, and yeah, I remember having to sit there and manual it, and some of those stages were pretty wild, and some of those waves were definitely crazy.
I remember this too. I heard from someone during the alpha, this would be a good shout out, that there was an internal competition to who beat it the fastest. Were you the winner?
Yes, I was, but well, there was like an internal competition of like there was 3 different ways to win. It was like first to clear it, and then like most Fafnir damage, and then most like or first one to clear all the challenge stars, something like that. And I did win the first to clear it, but shout out to my good friend Saphira. Me and him were hanging out in Discord and playing like manually and talking design and he helped a lot. So it was kind of a team effort with me and Saphira, but it was a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because when we heard that, we were kind of watching, obviously watching the original climb, but we are also watching, hey, who on the Fateless team is winning, right? Because, we were interested in that as well. Because, the Alpha 3 was a fun time. Absolutely fun. I hope that we can bring that energy to the early access as well, right? Because
and that's always been my goal. It's like if I'm gonna work on a game, I'm gonna want to play it at a semi high level. Like I'm not saying I'll be the best player in the world, but I want to at least like know what I'm doing and I want to play it a lot. So I made sure to beat every alpha wave because I want to be able to relate to what players are going through, and I want to like what pain points am I feeling? What heroes do I think are super weak? And I want to be able to kind of take that into meetings and take that into the design phase of the game and be able to relate to players a little bit more. And you really can't get that. Like data is great, spreadsheets are great, but I think you also need to kind of feel it. So I definitely wanted to play a lot.
Yeah, you can feel it, even with this conversation here. You really know, like everything I'm saying. You're like, yeah, I totally see what you're saying. I think that your hours of playing has paid off because like you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say about these very in-depth things, honestly, as well with like the Divnity system, stuff like that. And yeah, you definitely know your stuff. Not surprising as someone who designed the game, but
and been there since day one.
Been there since day one.
2.5 years.
2.5 years. That's crazy. Well, it was.
And did you know the direction, the whole direction of the game changed? Do you remember Simon talking about that?
So what happened? So let me tell you how I've been in. So Simon said, hey, I'm making a game. And I was like, awesome. And I quit Raid Shadow Legends and I joined the Godforge Discord or the Fateless Discord. And then I kind of was like, oh, yep, I'm just going to wait until they say it's coming out. So I have not been following up until about the alpha. But I did hear from someone that was supposed to be like grid based, right?
Yeah. So it was going to be a lot different than what you saw in alpha. So we basically worked on it for like, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. And then we mostly scrapped it and went a different direction. So there was going to be like a grid and certain attacks, hit like certain parts of the grid. And it was going to be a very tactical, very difficult to kind of, and after enough discussion between the founders and Simon and them, they kind of decided to go in a different direction. But yeah, the early days were very much that.
So kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics style, right? Where it's this grid based thing. So,
a little bit. I didn't play that one until I played like Ogre Battle.
Yeah, very similar to Ogre Battle. Yeah.
Did you play Ogre Battle?
Very little, very very little, but I know enough to be like, yeah, it's similar enough. I hope it's similar enough. I hope I played enough.
I got the cartridge.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's the thing I need to do. I need to work on my backdrop. Right now, it's just a green screen.
That's the evolution. You as a content creator, you go from having nothing to having a green screen to then setting up a fancy backdrop. That's like the third phase.
That's the third phase. Hopefully, I'll get there. Hopefully, I'll get there someday.
But I just moved. I had a more fancy setup at my previous place, but I just moved a few months ago. So my backdrop is slowly growing.
Nice. Well, I think with that, we're gonna wrap up here. Is there anything else you want to tell the fans of the game and the fans of your content? Right? Is like, do you plan on covering Godforge on your channel, for example, and stuff like that?
Yeah. That it's a tough one. Because I really love doing content, but. I don't know. It's tough. I love doing content on like the Fateless channel. Like I did a guide for the Godforge minigame recently.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So once a month, I might pop in there and do a video for the Fateless channel. As far as my own content, yeah, I don't know. From your perspective, would it be weird if a designer was like covering a game? Like
it's really hard for me because I get it. Like I'd be like, yeah, sure. Like design. I think you couldn't do the normal kind of content, right? I think it'd have to be, I think Simon said it best when he was like covering your journey through the game, right? And like, hey, like I think like shard pulls are like obviously great. It's like, hey, here's my shard pulls, right? Or like, hey, here's like an unorthodox team I did, right? More than just, the generic starter guide and beginner thing. But at the same time, I don't know, man. I just started making content like 3 months ago. I have no idea, right?
Yeah, but you're a gamer, so like,
Yeah.
if there was like a Diablo 4 designer and he was making videos on like I don't know if that's weird or not. I'm just asking.
I don't. I think it's one of those things where it's so uncommon because, like, I'm sure this content creation takes so much time and energy when you go from like the research to the recording to the editing to the and all the fine stuff that goes in between there. Like, I don't think developers have enough time to make content. You know what I'm saying? Like, and obviously,
I definitely could not do what I was doing back in the day. Like, wake up in the morning, live stream for 3 hours, then make 2 videos, then at night work on tier lists and spreadsheets. I definitely could not do that.
yeah,
But could I do 2 or 3 videos a week? Yeah, I could.
yeah,
It's not like I'm working 85 hours at Fateless.
yeah.
But who knows when the game comes out, right? Things might get crazy.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of unprecedented, right? So maybe you have to be one of the first to be like, okay, this is why they don't do it, or hey, this is why they should do it, So I mean, I'd be down, like, just to check it out, see the other thing too. I think the scariest thing would be like, what if you accidentally like leak something you weren't supposed to, right? Like, what if you just like,
dude, that's brutal. Like being the podcast host, and it's so hard to remember like everything that's been said, what hasn't been said. And yeah, that's the last thing I want to do is like step on someone's toes and say something and leak something and cause a fire alarm. So that is
yeah.
that is very it makes me timid about some things.
Sure. Well, hey, Brad, I'm happy that you came on. Happy that you you talked to little old me, right? We were saying beforehand too that like you've made a lot of you've been a really good resource for us content creators, right? Talk about how to do thumbnails properly and just the game, right? You've been doing it for, as you said, 17 years. I didn't even know it was that long. That's crazy.
I made my first video is still on YouTube actually. It's not on my ChoseN channel. It's on a different like StarCraft channel, but it's me like casting a StarCraft match in 2008.
Wait, I actually have a I actually what was it called? Casted a StarCraft game as well. That was my first video. It was like, I did it for like Reddit a long time ago. It was like, I would have cast like a bronze level match and just like, I was like platinum at the time. I was like, yeah, I'll just cast a bronze level match, just have fun with it. But I'm sure you probably did a professional match, but I was just like, yeah, just have fun. And that was actually my first video too.
I think it was like a clan battle match or something. Of our little clan. But no, it was that's awesome that you're playing StarCraft. So
yeah, small world. Well, mine was StarCraft 2 at the same time, right? You were probably playing StarCraft.
Yeah, my video was StarCraft 1.
Yeah, was it Brood War, right?
Yeah, it was Brood War.
Yeah, nice.
Brood War. I did get into StarCraft 2 a lot, and I went to some MLGs and was on some teams and did some content. But yeah, started with StarCraft 1 in 2008.
That's fun. Well, hey guys, check out ChoseN's YouTube video if you want to see stuff about Diablo and stuff. Sounds like you're a big Blizzard guy as well.
Yeah, but like those days, I'm not gonna be making content like Diablo.
Oh, sure.
So my main focus is Godforge and Fateless, and everything else comes second. So yeah, I don't know if you'll get a bunch of amazing content on my channel right now until we figure out some way to involve Fateless or Godforge or something, because I gotta make sure we nail this early access.
Oh, so are you trying to push to getting some Blizzard crossover on Godforge? Is that something you're interested in?
Well, that's not a question for me. That's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. Well, is that a suggestion you put in like the suggestion box, right? Like,
yeah. Write that down as a sticky note for when you have Hell Hades on or something. You can
All right. Thanks for coming on. Like I said, we'll catch you guys in the next video. See you later.
Yep. Thanks.